Welcome to Sampstra Games, the place to find new strategy games, and welcome to my guide on how to complete all the objectives in Unity of Command 2. This time I'm going to be doing the Battle of the BOCAGE. So let's do it, and yes, it's going to be in the playthrough mode. I know, very high excitement. Welcome to the Tactics window of Battle of the BOCAGE. Now this map is actually pretty straightforward. Essentially all you have to do is just like break down here, and when you do, you win. There are, however, a couple of tricks that you can use to help out. So first of all, you want to decide where you're going to break through. I'm breaking through here. You could also use an alternative strategy where you break through here, and by here I mean between Countenance and St. Lo, because St. Lo is a little bit more difficult to get. But I think breaking through here is a little bit easier, and then you want to grab 1 or 2 tanks, and with the tanks you're going to be moving towards the breakout and essentially trying to steal off some of their supply hubs so that you can get them unsupplied. Try to step on the railway, steal their supply hubs, but mainly you're focusing to get the breakout. Now here, Carpet Airfield should be fairly easy to get. It's just straightforward move down. A village BOCAGE is a little bit different. There you might need to use, feint attacks, so make sure that you're kind of surrounding it from the areas where you can use feint attacks, so not from across the river, and use that once or twice, and then you just try to straight up attack. Here, let's say, is not a city, so you can use things like airstrike and suppressive fire there. Watch out for the fact that the enemy tends to be very aggressive if you stand on objectives. So sometimes it can be a good idea to just stand near the objective and maybe wait an extra turn and take it the next turn so that he doesn't hit you, and then you can take it all at once and then he doesn't stand a chance if you'd like. There's also a trick you can use with cornering enemy. Essentially, if you block the retreat route of an enemy, you make him cornered, and if he's supposed to retreat, he will stay in position, but all of his steps will be suppressed. This can be very useful. For example, if you have an enemy who has, let's say, 7 steps, like for example, let's say this tank, and if I had this tank cornered, and I would have an attack, let's say 0-2, some fairly nice odds, and I would have a chance of retreat something. And this tank was supposed to be a retreat but couldn't. Instead of just killing 2 of its units, I would kill 2 of its units and suppressed all the other 5, which means that then everybody else has attacks like 0-2, 0-3 to do some really nice damage. So that's something I would highly recommend, that you try to sort of surround the enemy so we can use the corner thing. However, the enemy is going to be using the same tactics for you. So make sure, if you know that an enemy is probably going to attack this or that unit, that you try to move some of your other units away so that unit has a retreat route. Otherwise, you'll lose a lot of people unnecessarily. Now, people here on Cayenne and here, you can keep them entrenched, for example, and just kind of stand there so that the enemy doesn't kind of sneak through or take your objective away. Alright, first thing I'm doing is I'm adding some bridges. Essentially, I'm just trying to use up the command points of my HQ, and then I'm deploying the things that I already have. So I had some infantry, some specialists, etc. I will also be buying a lot of different specialists. My main focus is on getting things like priests, which help me, which allows me to move and then still use things like suppressive fire, which the other artillery doesn't let me do. If you want to know more about specialists, you can check out my guide for that. And then I'm trying to find some other specialists that have sort of like high stats. For example, the commandos, which I could buy in the Canadian HQ. It gives some really nice stats. I've also been taking some anti-armor specialists, not necessarily because I focus on the anti-armor part, but because they give you some nice defense stats, and they're fairly cheap. They only cost 10 prestige. Regular infantry steps cost 5, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, here I'm buying the commandos, like I said. The unit on Cayenne and the other unit on what used to be near Pegasus Bridge, I'm not buying anything there because they're just going to be standing in position and not doing much. Alright, it's time to start the battle. And I'm going to start off by using the strike next to Carpet Airfield. You can get another one of these strikes if you take over Lassay. And then I'm trying to push through here next to Carpegate Airfield because I want to get those tanks down there so I can take a breakout fairly quickly. And also so I can get Carpegate Airfield. You can see I'm using some suppressive fire. I have fairly good odds on that. And it gives me 2 average suppressions, so why not? Remember, Carpegate Airfield is not a city, so you can use these abilities without worrying. I'm so used to the fact that all the objectives tend to be cities that I often kind of like don't even try to use suppressive fire. I'm like, oh no, that is a city, that's okay. And I've just tried to use attack over a major river, but since it is a major river, I actually can't do an attack like next I've used the suppressive attack with the people on Cayenne, though I'll probably wouldn't. It's not really necessary. Now, next thing I'm trying to do is I'm trying to create some space around Villers Bocage because you need to surround it so you can use the sort of different feint attacks that we're going to be using here. So I'm trying to, make some space for myself so I could move around a little bit. And I'm always trying to do any sort of like 0-2 attacks, as you see right now, because they're very beneficial for me. And you do need to break through the front line, so you don't care so much where or how. You just want to make sure if you have a good attack, use it. So that's why I always like click on the tanks first, as the tanks tends to have a good odds against infantry, and then when I've used up the tanks, then I'm trying to move with other things around. You can see we got towards the safe fairly quickly. Unfortunately, I do not have enough movement points. Well, actually, it's not movement points. It's because of the zone of control. I can actually step into Lassay. So in the meantime, I'm focusing here on breaking through between, oh, you can see right here, and using some, I had some 0-2 attacks after the suppressive fire. I'm again trying to get myself towards Lassay, but even if I kill off this unit, it's not really going to help me get there because of the zone of control. But at least the next turn, I could potentially get there. I have some leftover airstrikes, so I'm just trying to use it somewhere where maybe if I hit the enemy, I could kill him off. So yeah, and I get another 0-2, which is always good. And push forward a little bit. Alright, now I'm checking out my supply hub, so I'm kind of checking what I can remove, because oftentimes my people are actually standing on railways, so I was like, yeah, can I remove the supply hub? And I could, so I did. And I'm just pushing a little bit forward, trying to check. Now that I'm sort of happy with the position of my units, I'm trying to add some supply hubs. And ideally it would be to place it next to St. Lou, but that feels a little too risky, so instead I've decided to place between Carpegate Airfield and Villers Bocage, and I've placed 2 on the same position, which allow me to sort of supply everything I need. Now again, the maximum supply here is 60%, so it's never going to be overly good, but you want to make sure that you're not like unnecessarily unsupplied yourself. You could see another 0-2, and now finally I'm trying to push through with the tanks a little bit. It's not complete. I'm not completely sort of out of the way yet, but I'm trying to move out, and it's a really important part in this scenario to sort of get out. Also, with the tanks, try to remember to use emergency supply like I did, because that will give you that extra turn so, that you can sort of search through the supply hub. Also, the enemy is smart, so it kind of knows that you're trying to steal its supply hub, so it's going to try to stop you. Yeah, I'm moving through with the other tank, and I didn't really manage to unsupply the enemy just yet. They have fully supply everywhere, but hopefully soon. That's the plan. Yeah, I can't quite decide who I want to stand on which objective. Because I was like, I gotta make somebody stand on the supply, but then I also kind of want somebody to stand on Carpegate Airfield. And then I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna put like a front before Carpegate Airfield and protect it from that direction. I've used a set-piece attack to lower their entrenchment towards the village BOCAGE. This was actually good. The problem was that I didn't really check the other units yet, so that was essentially like the only thing I could do. I couldn't really attack them much more or take over the place. So that was a little bit unfortunate, but still, I think lowering the entrenchment was a good idea, and next turn it will be a little bit easier to destroy them, so did what I could. If you're gonna do a set-piece attack and you want to kind of be like a bit more fancy about it, it would be a good idea to first check like where your other units can move, so that the unit that is using the set-piece attack is placed well. Now I've used an airstrike on village BOCAGE and allowed myself to move in. Now it is a city, so it was a bit of a risk, but as you probably noticed in my playthrough, I do tend to take the risk because you can usually handle it with the feint attacks anyways, as I tend to go for the objectives a little bit early and it's maybe necessary, at least on the normal difficulty, so I tend to sort of take the risk and try. It depends on your difficulty and on the way you play, I guess. Again, you can see I'm always kind of searching where can I get 02, 01, and then, you know, doing that. I was trying to attack Lessie, but there's really no good odds for me here. So I've decided instead of attacking straight Lessie, I'm going to try to surround it a little bit more and get a lot more of my units around it so I could attack it maybe later. I'm also doing some emergency supplies to make sure that my unit are well supplied for future turns. I mean, it's not really for future turns, more like because the oversupply would be for future turns. I just meant that if I use the emergency supply next turn, I'm only going to be out of supply for one turn. It's still capable of using my abilities. That'd be a better way to say it. Because the way I said it sounded like I'm giving myself supply for later, but that's what the oversupply dump does, and that's not what I did. Just to be clear. Adding any reserves, making sure I'm standing on my objective so the enemy can't sneak in. He couldn't sneak in anyway, but there have been a lot of mistakes when I did the Overlord mission where I accidentally let the enemy sneak through, so I'm a bit more careful here. Added the third supply between Carpicate Airfield and Village BOCAGE to help myself out. Now, this Churchill unit that I'm giving as to the Canadian Infantry was actually a reward for taking, I think, Village BOCAGE, for taking one of the other objectives, so yeah. Now, like I said, Lessie is not a city, so we can use airstrike on that pretty easily. Now the enemy understands what I'm trying to do with my tanks, so he's sort of trying to surround them and use its zone of control to sort of block me from moving everywhere. But I do have 2 tanks ready, so it's gonna allow me. And third thing is like almost ready, so I'm kind of ready, anyways. So I will be able to move a little bit, anyways. I've decided here that it's kind of more important to try to grab his supply hub, so it's like I'm gonna move that tank down, and hopefully the other tank can kind of occupy the enemy tanks, so to speak. I've used emergency supply on the third thing, but I couldn't really decide if I want to like spread myself out or if I want to step towards the other thing, so I was like, I'm just gonna do other attacks first and then decide. Alright, we're starting to surround St. Louis. And we're gonna start this off with some feint attacks. First from the tank. Then I used the set piece attack, which ended up making the city in ruins. Now, since the city is in ruins now, I can easily use the airstrikes, because, well, too late. It's already in ruins anyway. And yeah, I can't really attack it now, but it's okay. It could have went great. You just gotta try and find out. I tend to leave most cities in ruins in my fights, actually, because I'm too impatient. I'm like, no, let's just go. But I mean, we still get all the objectives, so clearly we're doing well anyways. So I was going to try to surround this tank, but then I realized if that particular unit that I was going to do it with, it was already out of supplied for 2 turns, so it couldn't really do much. So I was like, I'm going to try to move that unit back to the railway so that it can get supplied, and going to use the other to crown, because that tank now there is now fully cornered. So if you manage to make it retreat, it's going to lose all of its steps. Which is really, really good. Now, eventually, with this tank that we supplied before, I kind of decided to attack that unit over there, as you just saw. Same thing with this unit as I talked before. It's out of supply, so I'm trying to kind of move it to places where it gets slightly better chance of being supplied, but also where it can protect my objectives. Now pick cheaper emergency supply, because that seems to be the thing we need in this, Overlord and this mission, probably Normandy Breakout as well, though I haven't seen that yet, so. But I would expect it to be a similar problem. Now moving this other unit back towards the supply so that it can be fully supplied for next turn, and I can easier attack, let's say. And finally adding some reinforcements. And supply hub. I moved a little bit around so the tank is no longer cornered. Not that it would have been helpful, because I haven't really been doing anything with it. Now, I took that one supply and tried to move towards the other one. Didn't quite get there because there was something in the way, but that's okay. And here I'm trying to use the other thing to again move as close as possible. Again, grab their supply hub. Which again, it didn't really unsupply the enemy just yet, but we're getting towards a breakout, which is always good. Using the 0-3 attack because I can. Got overrun, so I could attack again, but... Now, at this point I've decided I'm going to take over St. Louis. We have 1 extra turn. We could have done it on turn 5. It's only turn 4. But I think it's done. Now we're gonna go with the airstrikes. Remember, it's already in ruins, so you don't have to worry. And now we can pretty easily take it. And we can also grab their supply up there, which is good for me. Using some feint attacks because we can. Just to get a little bit better odds for the others. Yeah, I've noticed that I have like a unit that's out of supply for 13, so I'm like, I gotta move it around to better position so it can get resupplied. Because, yeah, otherwise it's going to turn into stragglers and go back home to my HQ. I'm using suppressive fire on the tank at Lasay. And then some airstrikes. Yeah. And then I did a 1-1 which allowed me to take over. Easy. And like I said, I've got that extra saturation strike, I believe it's called, which is like the super cool attack where you can hit multiple enemies, but it can also hit you because it's hitting like surrounding units to the hex where you want to attack. Just checking my supply, trying to figure out where is the best placement for the next supply hub. And also I'm trying to figure out where I could just remove supply. Like for example, the one at Corentin, completely useless. So I'm deciding if I want to remove a supply hub on that point, and I'm checking like if I do, which hexes are going to be unsupplied and what I have on them, whether I can afford it. I decided that I can, so I've done that. This naval bombardment attack is honestly kind of pointless, but I was like, I'm just gonna use it because I can. Like, why not? I have it, so I might as well. Now, since they destroyed the bridge, they actually destroyed all their supply by themselves. So actually, I wouldn't even need to go to here because it just doesn't matter. I'm gonna ignore this unit and try to move towards breakout. Yeah, I'm just kind of afraid that there might be somebody standing there. So we want to make sure that we can get there ourselves. And then these guys could... We want to go there towards the supply, huh? I mean... We could... We'll see. You are US HQ, that's out of range. Interesting. Oh, it's in range again. Alright, so we're gonna start moving towards Cotansis, as that's the last thing we need to get. Now we could use this big airstrike, but it is a city. Let's start off over here. Yeah, we could do a 1-1. And... seems to be about it. Zero tier, that's the best we can get. Move forward, move forward. You need to stay to protect St. Lo. You've got it done. Let's use an airstrike here. Still do one more. I think I'll do it. And we'll also buy. And next turn we'll take this area and make it ours. Unless we make some really silly mistake, we should be alright. We could supply you you guys. And then maybe you. Go to the British HQ. Supply this 10. They get a tank. Quite nice. Let's move it in there. And I might want to move the US HQ a wee bit forward. So a bit better in range. We need to focus our supply, I don't know, here. This is where we need to move forward. Everywhere else we should be fine. I might take a step back here, just to protect myself. Yep, and now we're gonna take countenances and win. So we'll start off here, 90% retreat, and we'll step in, get resupplied, we can start hitting these guys, and we have everything. As you can see, we have now won. So let me do a little bit of extra killing, as always, and then I will show you the victory screen. We did it! All victory primary objectives have been completed. There are no more bonus objectives left. We are on turn 7, and we did it all. Golden victory as usual. I hope you enjoyed this tag guide, and you can click anywhere to watch any of the short guides. I'll see you there. Bye bye.